Hey, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for Tarkir Dragonstorm. I'm talking about all the cards only in the context of limited and sealed. So we're not caring about constructed formats or commander, this is just draft and sealed. Today we're talking about all the white cards, starting with commons going all the way to mythics, and we're putting everything on a rating scale A to F, just classic school time grading. Really easy stuff. If you want to know more about those rating systems, there's a description down below. But let's get into it. So, right off the bat, we have Mardu Devotee, which is a single white for a 1/2 creature human scout at common. And it says when this creature enters, scry 2. And then you can do this filter thing where you can pay 1 of any color and you can add red, white, or black. Activate only once each turn. So this is part of a cycle. There's one in every single color. This is obviously the white one, and it helps you cast your cards just because it's having redundant ways to make sure that you get your colors is always good. This one is okay. Your 1-drop coming down, scrying, setting up your draws for the next couple things seems pretty all right. The filtering thing will be helpful as well, but I don't really like this card that much. It's like a C minus, like it's gonna fit into my deck, but I'm not really happy with that. I will play this card, but I'm not gonna be looking for it. That's what I'm saying. It's a fine 1-drop. It's not very aggressive though. It is a 1/2, so it does block all the mobilized like tokens. But besides that, I don't know. Setup is fine, but it's all right. It's all right. Next up, we have Bearer of Glory. It's 1 and a white for a 2/1 creature human soldier. It says during your turn, this creature has first strike. And then you can pay 4 and a white for an activated ability. It says creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it pumps up your whole team for 5 mana. These are also fine. I don't really want to, I think this format is going to be a little bit bigger and chunkier than other ones. I think it's going to harken back to Tarkir, which is really slow. And cards like this, there were warrior decks, but I don't know, man. It's a 2/1. It can't block any of the mobilized creatures. It only attacks well, and then 5 mana to pump is kind of expensive. I usually really like the 2 mana first strikers, but this one I don't like as much. I'm just gonna give this like a D plus. Like you'll play this, but it's gonna be one of the last cards in the pack. You know what I mean? I don't think that this card's gonna be really important in the format. So D for the Bearer of Glory. Next up, we have Coordinated Maneuver. It's 1 and a white for an instant. You can choose one. Coordinated Coordinated Maneuver deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker, or you can destroy target enchantment. Okay, so we had a card that was very similar to this in Aether Drift that was pretty bad, but the biggest reason it was bad is because it was a sorcery. This is an instant. I think this will be very helpful. It's going to be a lot better than the sorcery speed version of it. You do still need a lot of creatures, but the fact that you can do this in combat with your mobilized triggers is big game. Very good. It'll help you take down bigger stuff, even if you have to put damage on it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm happy with this card. It's still just a C because you have to have a board state for it to do really much of anything, unless you want to destroy enchantments, which there are a couple white removal spells that are enchantments. So, that's something. But I'm going to still get just like a C. There are better removal spells, but this one works definitely in a pinch. So, yeah, it'll be kind of bread and butter-ish. Next up, we have Fortress Kinguard, which is 1 and a white for a 1/2 creature dog soldier at common. It says when this creature enters, it endures 1. Nice. 2 mana 1/2 that could be a 2 mana 2/3 if you need it, or 2 mana for a 1/2 and a 1/1. All right, I like the flexibility of this card. It also works with the last card pretty well if you want to go wide. And getting creatures that have counters on them will be important for the Abzan, all their shenanigans. So, yeah, this is a C. I'll play this card, but 2 mana for 2 bodies. Good. I think that's the mode I'll choose most of the time. Having a 2 mana 2/3 that then is just kind of vanilla after that, not as exciting. So I'm excited because you can get creatures out of this. Multiple creatures. Always exciting. Next up, we have Lightfoot Technique, which is 1 and white for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying and indestructible until end of turn. This is great. It's like a variant of Take Up the Shield, and all of the variants of Take Up the Shield now have gone up in my book since Outlaws of Thunder Junction. That card was amazing. So I am looking for cards that give me indestructible and a +1/+1 counter on it. Those are both really important. And the added bonus that you get flying. So you can, most of the time, you want to be able to use this card as like response for a combat trick. Sorry, a removal spell. So if your opponent is trying to kill one of your creatures, you get to give it indestructible, make it big. You don't really want to use this as a combat trick like in combat, because oftentimes what will happen is if you're attacking into open mana or something like that, your opponent will remove your creature in response to you trying to play this after it was blocked so that you can win that combat. Of course, if they're tapped out, it's much better than that. But also being able to aggressively give your creature flying. Maybe this goes on mobilized creatures that you give them flying for the turn to get to attack with a bunch of stuff. Or maybe it goes into, well, any just creature you want to jump over them and maybe hit them for the rest of their damage. You can also block. So, I don't know, there's a lot of versatility to this. And normally I'm kind of like, fine with these. But I'm going to give this a C as well. This is pretty solid. I wouldn't be too surprised if this card went up. It could be like a C+ to a B-, depending on what creatures you want to make sure you can protect. Because that can be really important. If it becomes like a really big bomb-heavy format where you need to protect your bombs, this is one way to do it, and it's the best way in white. So, could skyrocket. Could be a really important card. Maybe one of the best commons of the set. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But next up, we have Oseus Exhale. I don't know if I said that right, but it costs 1 and white for an instant. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may behold a dragon. So you either point to a dragon you have or show one in your hand. And it says, this card deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. If a dragon was beheld, you gain 2 life. So, cool. All right, this is another cycle of all the beholden dragons in my hand cards. And yeah, what I like about this is that it always deals 5 damage. So the removal spell is always going to be good. 5 damage to an attacking or blocking creature. That caveat is kind of annoying, but it is only 2 mana. So it will come in handy. I think it kills a good number of the dragons. And then the extra little text of like, hey, if you have a dragon, you gain 2 life. All right, it's not a huge bump. It doesn't do very much. But every once in a while, just getting, every life that you gain matters. So this could be great. But the fact that it always deals 5 damage, it's not like it deals 3, and then if you show a dragon, it's 5. I like that a lot. So this gets a C+. Attacking into 2 white mana is going to be really scary with this card and the last one as well. So C+ for the Exhale. Next up, we have Rebellious Strike, which is 1 and white for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn, and you draw a card. All right. I know that I should be the guy who really likes this card, and I tend to really like combat tricks. This one does draw a card. It just doesn't give any toughness, which is kind of a bummer. So you're almost always like 2 for 1ing yourself. Oh, I guess you get a card back for this, so it's just kind of 1 for 1ing-ish your opponent, but you put a bunch of stuff in your graveyard because I'm assuming that your creature's probably going to lose this combat. This is probably best in the Jeskai deck just because it will continue to let you draw cards to play double spells. So that's where I might see it. But in general, I don't think you really want to be playing this card. It's fine. I'm giving this a D, though. Like, I don't really want to be the one playing this card, I think. I know it's kind of uncharacteristic. I like aggressive decks, but cards like this, unless there's, like, more ways to abuse it, or you have, like, the heroic triggers or things like that, make it a little bit more interesting, so you can, like, keep going through your deck. But because it's the Jeskai deck with the double spelling thing, that's the one I'm a little bit hesitant of. It seems like it's a very pilot heavy. You have to be very good at piloting it, and I'm worried that I won't be able to do that. But this card probably goes in that deck. So I'm just going to give it a D. I'm going to lose to this card, but I don't really want to play it right off the bat. So, yeah. All right, next up we have Poised Practitioner. It's 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature human monk. At common, it has Flurry. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and scry. All right, this is a great payoff for this like double spelling thing. And I'm glad we have it. It not only does the Jeskai thing where you want to double spell and this creature grows, and also you get card selection to make sure you keep, fueling yourself with spells to keep double spelling, but it also will work in the Abzan decks where you care about +1/+1 counters. So this card seems pretty interesting, and I like it. I think this could be one of the better-ish payoffs. Being able to make your creatures really big and continue to do it. They can often edge out just enough that it's really annoying. So I'm going to give this a C+. I will be happy to have this card in my Jeskai decks. It does more than some of the other things. There's some other ones in Jeskai that just don't do enough for me, but this one does enough, so I like it. C+. All right, next up we have Stormplane Detainment. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. This is our classic removal spell. This card's going to be great. It's like a B- because it can get destroyed, so people can get their creatures back. But to be fair, there are ways to get their creatures out of the graveyard anyway, so might as well just keep it off, out of the graveyard and just on the battlefield here. But no, this card's solid. You can often first pick cards like this. So this is like a B- something like that. Great card. Good removal spell. This is another one of the cards that's a contender for the best white common. Next up, we have Tempest Hawk. Ugh, this is definitely not. Going from that to this is like a huge, huge shift. This is a 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature bird with flying. So a Windrake. It says, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a card named Tempest Hawk, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. And a deck can have any number of cards named Tempest Hawk. No, this is awful. A Windrake on its own is bad. Like a 3-mana 2/2 with flying is just not good enough anymore. And you have to hit your opponent to get this to happen. You do draw a card, but you have to have this stupid card in your deck. You need a lot of this stupid card to then play more versions of this stupid card that eventually doesn't do anything because you don't have any more in your deck because you hopefully only played like 2 or 3. I know it says you can play any number in your deck, but in limited that doesn't matter. No, don't put this card in your deck. It's not a failure, so it's not an F. I'm not going to say that this is the worst card ever, because every once in a while you might have to play this, and if you have 2, they might be able to draw you a card, so that's something at least. So I'm giving this a D-. It might have to be played if you have a real train wreck of a deck, but so it's not a 0, but it's not good. Please don't play this card. You're not gonna have fun. Trust me. Next up, we have Irration Sunshield, which is 3 and white for a 3/4 creature human warrior. It says when this creature enters, exile up to 2 target creature cards from a single graveyard, and you can pay 1 and a white. Sorry, you can just pay white, tap it, and you tap target creature. So this is a nice little tapper here. Paying a single white to tap is much better. 1 mana is really what you need for tappers to be good. But it does cost 4 mana to play, and it's a 3/4, so it's like one of your blockers that you would like. So you're kind of just like, usually tappers are like 2 mana 2/2s or stuff like that, or like 1 mana 1/2s, like little creatures that won't be able to do much in combat, and so tapping the big thing down is the thing they can do. And the fact that this one is more expensive than that, like 4 mana is a lot for this type of ability. I don't know how much we care about the exile part. That just is kind of extra. This is a C-. Like, you'll probably see this, and it will be a 3/4 to block, which is helpful, but I don't know, it's interesting. 4 mana tapper. Not what I'm looking for, but it's okay. All right. Next up, we have Dragonback Lancer. It's 3 and white for a 3/3 creature human soldier with flying, and it has Mobilize. Finally, I've been talking about this ability. We finally get to see it. So mobilize is whenever this creature attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature token. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So this attacks in the air and it makes one creature on the ground attack. Yeah, I think this is pretty all right. Like, this is going to be annoying. On an empty board, it hits for 4 every turn. You get to do some shenanigans with your tokens and all that stuff. There's a bunch of cool ways we can do fun things with it, but this is probably like a C. Like, the 4 mana 3/3 flying creature in white tends not to be an extremely important card. And this does some things, but not amazing stuff. So it's fine. But I don't think it's going to be a card where you're like, oh, white's open. Definitely not. No, this is just a card you just kind of have to play sometimes. Next up, we have Riling Dawnbreaker, also Signaling Roar. All right, so this is our first Omen card, and they look a lot like Adventures, but they're not. They're much, much worse, in fact. So this, on its face, is a 5 mana 3/4 dragon. It has flying and vigilance, and the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. All right, that's fine. Like, a 5 mana 3/4 is not super exciting, but it can make itself a 4/4 when it attacks, or put that +1 anywhere it wants. Flying and vigilance is really strong, really annoying. But it also has flexibility. So we could play Signaling Roar instead, which is 1 and a white for a sorcery Omen. It says create a 2/2 white soldier creature token, then shuffle this card into its owner's library. Wah, wah. So adventures let you kind of curve into the creature. You get to play the spell, it exiles, and then you play the creature later. This is an Omen for your opponent where you can play the sorcery part, and then you shuffle it into your library and might draw it again to then play the creature. But you could also play the sorcery again if you wanted. In general, this is like not terrible. It's much worse than Adventure. But it is a modal card in Draft, so it will be helpful in that sense. Instead of just, oh, I have my 5 mana dragon in my opening hand, what am I going to do? You at least get a creature out of the deal. And in this one specifically, you literally get a creature. The omens that don't affect the board are ones that I'm more worried about. But I like this one. This is like a C+. Like, this card at least does something early, and I like the ability later and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty all right. C+. I'm going to be annoyed to see this card, I think. And this is a good common. Like, really good. I don't know if this is a contender for best. It might be. It might be contender for the best, but I think this next card is the one that I'm really excited for. Our last white common is Salt Road Pack Beast. It's 5 and a white for a 4/3 creature beast. And it says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control. And when this creature enters, you draw a card. Yes! I love being able to play creatures and draw cards. That, it's just, especially in decks that want to be kind of aggressive. And this one works really well with Mobilize. Because if you're attacking, you get to make a bunch of tokens. They don't die until your end step. So now you get to play this. If you have 5 creatures, bam, this costs 1. 1 mana 4/3 draw card. Now, that's Magical Christmas Land. 5 creatures after combat is a lot to still have. So, probably not going to happen. But if you play this for 3 mana, I think you're happy. 2 mana would be amazing. 4 mana is like, okay. 5 mana is like, rough. So I'm hoping to hit like the 2/3 mark. 3 mana, I'd be very happy for a 4/3 that drew me a card. Absolutely. And then after that, you can trade it off with something bigger. It's a 4/3. Might randomly come up in, like, obviously this is a white card, so Teamer, not necessarily a thing, but every once in a while you have a card that cares about a 4-power creature, so that might be a thing. But I like this one a lot, and this is like a B- for me. I think this is probably close to and on par with our Stormplane Detainment, the one that what is it, the Oblivion Ring. That card and this one are the ones that were like, okay, these could be the best white commons, I think. And that dragon might be creeping up as well. Moving into the uncommons, we have Descendant of Storms, which is a single white for a 2/3 creature human soldier at uncommon. It says whenever this creature attacks, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, it endures. And again, enduring either puts a +1/+1 counter on the creature, or you make a 1/1 spirit creature token that is white. Cool. We've seen a card like this in Kaldheim, which boasted and did this. So you had to attack to do it. I mean, this does the same thing. You also have to attack to do this. But it didn't have that keyword. That's why I was thinking about that. But anyway, being able to attack and either make a 1/1 or make this bigger is pretty exciting. And, Savannah Lions on turn 1, 1 mana 2/1. Not amazing, but this is much more aggressively slanted than that Devotee we saw as a common 1-drop. So I like this one a lot better. And this might be one of exactly what I want to do on turn 1 is I get to keep cards in my hand. I keep either, making my board bigger, which is probably what I want to do, or make this creature bigger. But, I think I'd prefer to have a lot more creatures on the battlefield for my Salt Road Pack Beast. But awesome. This is like a B-. I think if I can start the game with this card, I'll be so stoked. Doesn't do as much stuff later, but it's the best white 1-drop we can have, so I like it. Next up, we have Duty Beyond Death. Really interesting card here. It's 1 and a white for an instant. It says, as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. Sure. Okay, we see that on black instance a lot, but let's see what this white one does. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Huh. So interesting. It's a protection spell. It saves your team and pumps your team, but you have to sacrifice somebody on your team to play it. I think this design is pretty interesting. You don't ever see, I don't think I've ever seen a card that was like this. This is pretty cool. The best thing about this is also if you have tokens around that you don't care about, obviously that's when you're going to want to play this a lot. It fits in those decks very strongly because token decks want to be able to protect their board. They also want to be able to pump their board, and you have expendable creatures. Those are 3. This card is going to be really helpful for all those decks. If you're not in a token deck, definitely the less exciting. And oftentimes the give all your creatures indestructible doesn't always matter that much, because if your opponent tries to usually when you're playing protection spells like this, it's just targeted ones. So when you do the whole team, it's not as good when your opponent's just trying to use spot removal on one of your creatures that you care about. And you would also have to sacrifice something to do that. So the flexibility of your opponent's trying to kill one of your creatures and you use your team protection spell to save your big creature, this would just make you 2 for 1 yourself, essentially. Maybe 1.5 and 1 yourself because you had sacrificed a token. But you need a token. I like the idea of attacking with my whole mobilized team and then sacrificing one of the tokens that's not going to stick around to make that attack huge. That would be a big game. That's the best thing you can do with this card. But there's a lot of situations where this card's not going to be fantastic and you don't want to sacrifice your creatures to protect another creature. So with that, I think this is just a C. It's really interesting. Might have some implications in other formats. But I think the mobilize situation, you want to play this in Mardu and not as many other things, I think. I think that's really what you want to do. So just a C. It's not going to go too far down, but it's not going to go too far up either. Next up, we have Furious Forebear, which is 1 and a white for a 3/1 creature spirit warrior. It says, whenever a creature you control dies while this creature is in your graveyard, you may pay 1 and a white. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. All right, this is kind of interesting because I'm constantly thinking of just the Mardu decks with a lot of these cards. You're going to have often having creatures die because you're going to have tokens that get sacrificed. So you just pay 2 mana to put this back in your hand. So it is 4 mana to do this little loop thing to get it on the battlefield. It dies, you bring it back, you put it on the battlefield, it dies, and you go back and forth. I like recursion on the 3/1s because they're going to die for sure. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know if we're always going to have time to pay for this though. And you have to have the mana up when the creature dies too. So it's totally cool and good, but I also think it's just going to sit in the swath of cards that you have. And if you don't have this card, you won't care all that much. You could sacrifice this to the Duty Beyond Death. That's nice. But yeah, probably just like a C still. Like not obsessed. Yeah, I could be wrong with some of these, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not gonna be, if it went to the battlefield or it had haste, I think I'd like it a lot more, but because it takes so long, it's just not as exciting. Next up, we have Storm Beacon Blade. It's 1 and white for an artifact equipment. It says equipped creature gets +3/+0, and whenever equipped creature attacks, draw a card if you control 3 or more attacking creatures, and the equip cost is 2. So it's 4 mana total to give a creature +3/+0, and then when you attack with at least 3 creatures, you draw a card. All right, drawing a card's big. If that's on your card, we got to look at this a little bit longer. It does work with Mobilize, I believe, because when you attack, this trigger will go on the stack, and so will the Mobilize one. So as long as your creatures are resolved and tapped and attacking first, this only cares about whenever a equipped creature attacks, draw a card if you control 3 or more attacking creatures, not creatures that attacked, because the tokens wouldn't have attacked, they are just attacking. So if you make sure to stack the triggers right, you can draw a card. I'm fairly positive. So yeah, that's really nice. Like drawing cards and being able to throw this on whatever. Because a lot of those mobilized cards don't have really high powers. So this could be really helpful in that. But it is an equipment that doesn't just give us a free equip. So yeah. This one's hard. I want to say that this is fantastic, but I think it's so hard. It's so easy to interact with, and you're rarely going to be able to draw that card. I just don't think it's going to happen that much. And in the situations you are drawing the card, you're already winning, and so it just helps you, I guess, turn the corner. Or like that's nice. It turns the corner and really closes the game out. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of. I don't know. I feel like it's a C-. I feel bad. I feel bad that I'm saying that. Is it? I could be proven wrong. But I feel like this makes me really excited, and I want this to be like a B, but I don't think it is, and I'm being very cautious, so I'm going to give it C-. Ugh. So sad. Next up, we have Sun Pearl Kirin, which is 1 and white for a 2/1 creature Kirin with flash and flying. It says when this creature enters, return up to one other target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it was a token, draw a card. All right. Cool. So this does protect our creatures. Really interesting in an Endures deck where you played your Endure creature, it made a 1/1. Your opponent tries to kill it, you bounce it back to your hand, you get to recast it. That seems pretty cool. There's like some common green creatures I'd be interested playing with this card. It also will do a bunch of random janky stuff. If you end up playing your Oblivion Ring on something and you want to change it to something else, you could do that. The other fun thing is that if you have your tokens that are going to die from Mardu Mobilize, you just play this and you draw a card. That's big game. Like bouncing a token that you were going to lose anyway and you draw a card. Sick. So I really like that. I think there's some cool play to this card. So I'm going to give this a C+. I think this is going to impress us a little bit more. I don't think it's going to bump really up to a B, but getting flying is actually really helpful too. A lot of times this is just like a 3-mana 3/1 on the ground, and this is a 2-mana flyer, which is much better. A lot easier to hold up 2 mana than 3. So, this could be a B- actually. I think this can creep up a little bit. So, yeah. Let's give this. I was going to give this a C+, but let's give it a B-. I think this is going to be a lot better. And I think we're going to want to use some of our ETBs possibly a couple times, maybe. Maybe I'm too excited. Maybe I talked myself into something. I think I did. Maybe this card is not a B-, but whatever. We said it. It's too late. We got to keep going. Next up, we have Dalkovan Pack Beast, which is 2 and white for an 0/4 creature Ox with Vigilance, and it has Mobilize 3. Hell yeah. You attack with your beasts that they don't want to block because it doesn't deal any damage, and then you're hitting them for 3 tokens that are going to die anyway every turn. So they have to have a 4-power creature for you not to want to attack them. I don't know. This seems great. I like this a lot. I don't think I want to go too high on this, but I don't know, making 3 tokens every turn. I don't know. It goes right into the Pack Beast deck. You play this Pack Beast, you play the Salt Road Pack Beast, you draw cards, you make lots of creatures. I don't know. I think this card is cool. It's still like a C plus, C plus. Mobilize 3 is big. I think that's the highest really that we've seen like in the whole thing besides Mobilize X. So I don't know. Cool. I like it. Really interesting. But yeah, like a C plus, C plus. I'm changing all my scores now, folks. C plus for the Pack Beasts. I like them. I like them a lot. Next up, we have Starry-Eyed Skyrider, which is 2 and a white for a 1/3 creature human scout. It has flying, and it says whenever this creature attacks another target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. And big, attacking tokens you control have flying. Yes. I think I'm looking at every single white card as if we are playing Mardu all the time. But this really wants to be in this. This is another C+. This one loves the Pack Beast because you attack, all your 1/1s get flying, and you get to ping, 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 ping. You can also give your Pack Beast flying. Awesome. That's sick. Being able to pick up other things is great too. It is only like a 1/3, but you know, I think that the tokens gain flying thing could be a big game. Could also not be. That's possible. But slamming this and playing like a mobilize, or like attacking with mobilized creatures or different things like that. I don't know. I like it a lot. It's cute. It's really cute. C+ for the cute card that I want to be good. Next up, we have Rally the Monastery, which is a 3 and a white for an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if you've cast another spell this turn. All right, so if this is 2 mana, that's all right. I'd be interested. Choose 1. Create 2 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess. Up to 2 target creatures you control each get +2/+2 until end of turn, or destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That is a lot of stuff. That is many things we can do. 4 mana for these effects. Yeah, okay. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater with 4 mana. That's not the worst. 2 creatures is nice. Combat trick is nice. And if you played something else this turn, it's cheaper. So you play like another 2 mana spell and this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I like it. This is not going to hit the B territory though. Just because you, like, I really want to play this with another card. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to play this for 4, but, I mean, I guess that's not that bad. But this is like a C+. I don't think it gets up to the B range. The removal is conditional, but the flexibility of everything else is really nice. But still just a C+. Like, if you see this, you'll be like, okay, I think white could be open, because this does a lot of stuff. So there is that. Kind of wish there was some kind of counter thing so it went in Abzan a little bit better, but that's all right. Next up, we have Teeming Dragonstorm. This is a cycle. So there are Dragonstorms for all of the different colors, and they all do different things, but they have the same text at the bottom. So this is the white one. 3 and a white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create 2 2/2 white soldier creature tokens. And it says, when a dragon you control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. This is very reminiscent of the cartouches from Amonkhet, the original Amonkhet. Except for triggering off of literally any dragon is way better than one specific card. You know what I mean? Just much better this way. The flavor on theirs was, the cartouche's flavor was really cool. But I think this works better as like just a card that you're trying to recast. And 2 2/2s. Okay. That's all right. Playing this over and over again, you get lots of 2/2s. That could be good. It could be a big game. 4-drop slot is kind of tenuous, but I don't know. This is like a C. I don't think I'm super stoked on this card ultimately, but like, I think it's good. It's fine. It's another one of those cards that I think people are just gonna beat the crap out of me with. 2 pieces of cardboard is great, and being able to recast it over and over again does seem pretty good. You know what? It's probably better than a C, but I'm just going to say a C just to get it less complicated. But if the format goes really long and you have lots, and dragons become really important. If you're able to have a lot of good white dragons that you can play and pick this up, then yes. Then yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it's all right, but maybe we'll get outclassed by just a 5/5. Next up, we have Way Speaker Bodyguard, which is 3 and a white for a 3/4 creature orc monk. It says when this creature enters, return target non-land permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. And it has Flurry. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, tap target creature and opponent controls. Hot dog. All right, so this is a 4-mana tapper I can get behind. All right, so you play it, you draw a card. You for sure have a permanent with mana value 2 or less in your graveyard. For sure. So you get to draw a card when you play this. And it helps you play another card so you can like flurry the following turn, tap something, attack with stuff. This card seems awesome. This is like a B-. I like this. This is another great payoff for the flurry deck. Yes. Yeah. This is going to make combat really annoying. If your opponent's just like, okay, play a couple things, attack you, tap your shit, make my creatures bigger. That deck can be pretty scary, I think. But this is going to be one of the reasons. B-. Like it a lot. Next up, we have Loxodon Battle Priest, which is 4 and a white for a 3/5 creature elephant cleric. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. All right. 5 mana 3/5. The biggest thing with this card is that you can't put the +1/+1 counters on this elephant, which sucks so much. It sucks a lot because the other variants of these cards, like you have to kind of decide, oh, do I kill this or kill the thing that's getting huge? And then if you kill the thing that's getting huge, you just put counters on the thing that's giving counters. You can't do that with this card. It's also expensive. The cards that we've really liked that were like this were like 2 mana. This is 5, so it takes a lot longer. But this blocks very well. And if the format goes really long, this effect is very strong. Being able to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you can, like whatever creature you want, every single turn is a big game, and it is a way to break board stalls and push in damage. So I like this card a lot. I think this is also a B-. I think this is going to be a lot more surprising than we think. It is 5 mana, but if the format's slow enough, this will be good. If it's fast, this is going to be terrible. But I think it'll be slow enough that this card will be a good card. And yeah, sweet. Next up, we have Static Snare, which is 5 and a white for an enchantment with Flash. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast if it's... it costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature. It has the Witchstalker Frenzy thing. The text. Jeez, what are words? Anyway, when this enchantment enters, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. This is great. This is going to be a really good removal spell. It's going to get pretty cheap. Even if your opponent attacks for 2 things, just paying 3 mana for this effect or 2 mana for this effect. Yeah, even like 4, because, you know, you're going to play this in combat, so at least one thing's attacking the thing you're trying to get rid of, probably. So, you know, I like this a lot. This is like a B. This is great. It's just like the tricky stuff that really screws up combats and swings things in your favor when you get to do it on your opponent's turn and then attack them when they weren't prepared. This is going to be good. I like this card a lot. All right, next up, we have the rares. So this is Voice of Victory. It's 1 and white for a 1/3 creature human bard with Mobilize 2. And it says your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. All right, that part is less important. It will just stop your opponent from doing it, which is, it will get people sometimes where they think that they can do something at instant speed and they can't, so they might make bad choices. But after they learn what this card is, that's not going to happen for very long. Ultimately, this is a 2 mana 1/3 with Mobilize 2, which is pretty fine. It's good. Like being able to attack and get your dudes in. It has 3 toughness, so they have to put like a bigger creature to block this. With that being said, I think it's kind of like a C, though. Like, I don't know if you pack one pick this card and be really happy about it. It's cheap, and it does some stuff, but not like a bomb in any sense. Next up, we have Anafenza, Unyielding Lineage, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature, Spirit Warrior. Oh, Anafenza died. It has Flash and First Strike. It says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Anafenza endures 2. So, your opponent tries to kill one of your things. You can either, I mean, a lot of white cards do protect it, but Anafenza comes down. It can either get, you can have a 4/4 first strike creature or a 2/2 and a 2/2 with first strike. And this happens for every non-token creature you control. So if your opponent's trying to wipe the board in some way or do anything like that, you get to just like, well, I guess if they're trying to wipe the board, you actually don't really get to save them because you just make a bunch of 2/2s that then also die. I guess no, they'll die first and then it'll happen. So then you do get to repopulate your board, but Anafenza doesn't get to get the counters. That's definitely how this card works because there's no way that they would make it so that you can't just play this as board wipe proof. So turning your board from whatever it was into a bunch of 2/2s, not the worst thing. In Limited, we don't have to worry about board wipes all that much, but I do like this card, and having like a round of 2/2s after your opponent was slowly killing your other things, awesome. Or making a giant first striking creature, also awesome. So yeah, being in a situation where you're blocking in a combat that seems like maybe it's not going to be the best for you, and then you flash in Anafenza, and then your opponent's like, oh geez, I was not expecting to have like an 8/8 first striker next turn. You'll be like, yeah, got him. So that seems cool. But yeah, this is a B. I don't think it's a bomb, but I do like this card. It seems like a really interesting kind of subgame to play, and there's a bunch of cool flash stuff happening in white. So yeah, there's definitely a cool deck in here somewhere to play. But anyway, next up we have Clarion Conqueror, which is 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature dragon. It has flying. All right, a 3-mana 3/3 flying dragon. Fine. It has activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers can't be activated. So anything that has like a colon in it is an activated ability. This is like a hate bear. Sorry. What I want to say is that I think this card is super cool. I really like hate bears like this. It's one of my favorite kind of subtypes. However, hate bears are very specifically good in other formats. I should have said this with Voice of Victory as well, but like if there are certain things you're worried about, hate bears are better to have. Like also in just mass, if you just have a bunch and your entire deck does that, and it actually turns off your opponent's stuff. Like this turns off crew, but like we don't have that, right? And most of our creatures like abilities that we really care about are triggered because all the triggered abilities are really good, and activated ones are usually not nearly as good because triggered is just like when it enters or when it attacks. So the fact that this says activated instead of triggered is just significantly worse in Limited. So you're really just playing a 3-mana 3/3. You're not going to really get this card. Just don't first pick this card. It's a C-. 3-mana 3/3 is fine. It's not great, but it's not that I hope it's not in my deck, but I'm not going to be like obsessed if it is in my deck. And I'm just kind of C- is maybe a little harsh, but it's just kind of show you that like, yes, this is a rare, but I don't think it's that great of a rare. And yeah, it's not going to snowball anything. It's just, it's not worth talking about anymore. Let's keep going. Next up, we have Sage of the Skies. This card is very much worth talking about. It is 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature human monk. It says when you cast this spell, if you've cast another spell this turn, copy this spell. It has flying and it has lifelink. This is sweet. You're definitely going to want to make sure you play this on turn 4 or 5 if you have a 1-drop or a 2-drop to play with this, because you like 5 mana, you obviously have to play another card from your hand, but you get 2/2/3 flying lifelinkers. That is going to be really hard for your opponent to deal with. This card is awesome. I love it. I love it. Is it a bomb? No, you definitely need to be in a deck. You don't have to specifically be in the Jeskai deck for this to work, but this card is awesome. I don't know. I like it a lot. This is like a B. Like a B plus. That's going to be a brutal like turn 5 or turn 4. Ideally, you could do it on turn 4. So maybe some of the like 1-drops we might want to bump up a little bit just because they're cheap. But hopefully it's one of the blue ones or the red ones so that you can. There's more 1-drop stuff going, or like trippy stuff in those decks. But this card's sweet. I like it a lot. Please let me have it. Let me play it. B plus. I'm gonna say. Last rare is United Battlefront, which is 3 and a white for a sorcery. Okay. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. snooze fest. Put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Non-creature? This is horrible. This card looks like it's Collected Company because it's 4 mana, but it's not an instant. It's a sorcery. Top 7 cards, sure, but oftentimes whenever a card starts with like, look at the top, blah, 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 cards of your library, I start to fall asleep and I have to wake myself up. But it says 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less. Like, what the hell is that? Like, I guess you get to play like, you hope that you have 2 of the Stormplane Detainments, because that's the Oblivion Ring, and you get to put that on the battlefield. But what the hell is this card? This is an F. Don't play this card. This is awful. I don't even think you want to play... Like, there could be a weird standard deck that plays this, but non-creature, non-land. What is that about? No. No. F. It's awful. All right, next up is Elspeth Stormslayer. It's 3 white for a 5 loyalty legendary planeswalker Elspeth at Mythic. It has a static ability, which says if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. You can +1 to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. You can pay 0 to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain flying until your next turn. -3, destroy target creature and opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. This does everything. All the stuff. All the things. You get to double up on tokens, which will matter because Mobilize makes tokens. There are Monk tokens that are in Jeskai, and Endure also makes tokens. All the cards I want are making tokens, putting more cardboard on the battlefield. Like this with the Dragonstorm thing from earlier that makes the 2/1/1s, or the 2/2/2s, sorry. You get another one. You would just want to pump this deck full as many tokens as you can. Twice that many? Amazing. You mobilize. I'm pretty sure they're still tapped and attacking, but you get double. I'm pretty sure. I'm not... Okay, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know about that one for sure. We'll have to see. Arena will tell us, but I don't know. This is great. Unfortunately, Endure only lets you make 1 token when it comes in. So you won't get, like, you just get 2. But still, that's big game. This protects itself. You get to make 2 1/1s. You put counters on your whole team and just kill your opponent for 5 mana because you're like, oh, by the way, sorry, we're attacking and we're in the air now. F you. Or let's destroy my opponent's thing. I still have a 2 mana planeswalker left over. This card's an A+. This is the card I want to open. It's so awesome. I like this so much. Yes, please. Yes, chef. Yes, chef. I want this. Next up, and last card for white, is our last mythic. It is Smile at Death. It's 3 white for an enchantment. It says, at the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. All right, this is pretty cool. 5 mana is pretty expensive for this. It is also double white, but you do need a very specific deck for this to be in, which is just like an aggressive Mardu deck, primarily, I would expect. It does have the Mardu, what's it, like what the heck is that called? Shadow thing? I don't remember. Anyway, it's got that on the back. And Alesha was also like a Mardu creature. So that just is flavor-wise works out. But yeah, like getting your 2 power creatures back over and over again. The cool thing is also 2 power, so you're not just stuck at 2 mana value and you're like hoping for a bunch of 3/1s or something. This could open up a bunch of mobilized creatures. Do have low powers for the most part because you are getting more creatures. So being able to bring those back, continue to attack, they get a little bit bigger, and it happens every single turn. This could be big game, but it is still a do-nothing enchantment. Like, it comes down, does literally nothing until your upkeep. But luckily, the thing it's doing is reanimating stuff, so you can block and bring things back. Or all that. Though I can see in games, I can see this happening to me, is that I'm playing a really aggressive deck. I attack with all my stuff. I'm like, some point I'm going to get Smile at Death or get one of my Haymakers, and then most of my creatures are dead. I'm looking for anything to block next turn, and I draw this card, and I can't block. And I'll be very sad. But in other situations, this is great. I think it's a B. I think this has enough applications that getting 2 creatures back every turn is going to be worth it. So yeah, Smile at Death, B. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the white set review for Tarkir Dragonstorm Limited. Tell me what you think in the comments below, or subscribe, or do both of those things, actually. All the normal things you would do in YouTube channels. I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, tell me if you like these and if you want more of them, or just literally anything. Please talk to me. Say something. Maybe. Whatever. All right, folks. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.